Welcome back to the Ohio Valley MTG Invitational, brought to you by Apex Gaming. I'm Todd Anderson, aka Tandy. This is
Ross Merriam, aka Ross Hunneds.
And we brought you three hard-hitting fast rounds. Well, maybe not fast. Three hard-hitting rounds of modern coverage here at the home store in Caldwell, Ohio, Apex Gaming. And we're having a blast. This is the first time I've gotten to do coverage since before the pandemic started. And honestly, I feel good. I feel natural, like I'm in the place I should be.
Yes, feel home.
Yeah. But we have a metagame breakdown for you here. We have a lot of players playing similar decks. We got a couple of rogue strategies for you. This field of 60 players, we're down to just 4 3-0 players, and this round we're going to be watching all of them. But before we get to that, tell me about the metagame.
Yeah, I was going through all the deck lists, trying to tally them up as best I can, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like by a wide margin, 4-color Omnath, the most popular deck. I counted 11 total copies here, so that's almost 20% of the field.
Sometimes splitting between the elemental version and the more controlling version, sometimes the Ragavan version, but it's all 4-color Omnath, money pile.
Yep, and I've lumped all of them together. So, you know, not really a challenger there. No deck super close. Next up is Rhinos. I count 5 copies in our field. A deck that has really been resurgent in the last couple weeks. Beyond that, it's a smattering of, is it Murktide? I would say lower than I expected in its numbers. Living End, Grixis Shadow showing up in decent numbers here, and then a little bit of big man, a little combo. But we're actually going to go here to Gabriel Abadi. We saw him earlier playing this very unique take on Asmo and the Food Engine with mono red.
Yeah, and we've seen both these players on camera already before. You're going to see a lot of that in this smaller invitational-only field. Matthew McAllister playing this Jund deck that's pretty sweet. Kind of like a Boomer Jund deck. No sagas, a bunch of removal, a couple of new cards, but mostly just those.
But also no Tarmogoyfs.
Yes.
This is a deck that is playing to grind. Seasoned Pyromancer, Grist, Liliana of the Veil, generating tons and tons of card advantage. Croxa as well. So interesting matchup here. We'll see, you know, who is favored going along. Both these decks really capable of grinding very well. And, you know, definitely not a matchup I'm very familiar with. So not sure who would be favored in a long game, but I do know that Abadi has so much burn here with Ghirapur Aether Grid, Shrapnel Blast, and Galvanic Blast that McAllister's got to be careful to stay out of that, you know, danger zone. And that danger zone might be 13.
Right. So it looks like here, Body is going to untap with his Saga, but before the trigger goes off, McAllister going to blow it up with the Boseiju. Now, a mana is floated. This is during the main phase, I believe, or maybe it was upkeep. It's hard to tell on the timing exactly. We'll figure it out in just a second, but a Body here going to go ahead and find a mountain, snow-covered mountain, and we'll see what the play is. McAllister's Jund deck, great at being able to blow up a various permanents from all sorts of different effects, like Boseiju, things of that nature.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, this is a small field, invitation only at 60 players, and that means only 6 rounds of Swiss. So this round 4 matchup between trios is likely for the top 8. Yeah. So players, you know, fighting here to try to clinch their spot early, get to relax for a couple rounds before those grueling best of 5 matches in the top 8.
Yeah, and we'll be bringing you all the action, the Swiss and the top 8 today, as much as we can. The best of 5 matches against, you know, 4-color mirrors could go all night. And I'm ready to be here all night.
Yeah. Academy Manufacturer here from Abadi. I think that's an important one in a matchup like this. Really kickstarts the engine, generating so much advantage every time you're able to create a food with your Underworld cookbooks. But right now, nothing to go with it.
Yeah, but that can change in a hurry. You know, a single cookbook leads to Asmo, leads to more food tokens, leads to blowing stuff up. But you have to imagine that untapping with Academy Manufacturer is exactly where you want to be at this mono-red food deck.
Kind of interesting to me to see in Abadi's deck, you know, I don't think there's other ways to discard cards other than the cookbook. So like you can't like cycle a Street Wraith, for example, and play your Asmo on turn 1. And it looks like he's stuck with 2 copies of Asmo in his hand right now.
Yeah. We'll see if you can find a way to get them onto the battlefield. The Asmos are particularly powerful against creature-based decks, and this Jund deck does win via creatures. It's also okay to kind of sandbag them for a while because you want to be able to like sack 2 food tokens on the turn where you cast the Asmo. And so, you know, without Daredevil, the Underworld cookbooks aren't that great either.
Okay, I do see 4 copies of Voldaren Epicure on this list. So the blood token can get you a way to discard a card, and with the manufacturer would be really helpful, right? Manufacturer is blood. Is it blood, food, and treasure?
It's all. I think it's all tokens.
No, it's just food, treasure, clue.
Food, treasure, clue. Okay, so it
no
doesn't have dragon blood, yeah, because blood came later.
Yeah.
So not going to combo there, but we'll let him play the, Asmodeus in his hand, get some cookbooks going, and even without a Daredevil, the manufacturer will generate plenty of value.
Yeah. Grist ticks up, makes a blocker. Renin 6 ticks up, gets a land back. Oh, maybe he's not going to make a blocker. Maybe he's going to sack this insect and kill the manufacturer. The Boseiju in hand from McAllister also protects him from the Den of the Bugbear. So this is a pretty nice play here from McAllister. I think he's going to be quite well set up to defend against many of these things.
But there's a Shrapnel Blast in the body's hand. Could now just sacrifice in response, deal with that Ren or the Grist.
Love it.
Whichever one. I'm inclined to do that.
Yeah.
And decides
the
to
Ren
do
seems
Ren.
fine. So good trades from both sides. Shrapnel Blast, normally you get -1, but when your opponent's killing your target,
That is a Pyrite Spellbomb, so that'll deal with the Grist.
Yeah, one of those tutor targets for Saga looking quite good right now is just a 2-mana shock to finish off that Planeswalker.
We might be going into Boomer Jund mode with that Raging Ravine. That is Boomer Jund.
Yep. McAllister activates the Raging Ravine, getting in here, going to put a counter on it. That's 4 damage.
Okay.
That piles up quickly.
Did you have counter on Raging Ravine on your feature match bingo card?
I did not.
But how tapped out so this Den can get in?
Yeah, Shinka the Bloodsoak, keep an untapped red source, going to be the draw. Den of the Bugbear comes in, makes the token. Now, these two lands facing off against each other, they actually scale similarly, except that a body is going to generate some 1/1s to actually block later on.
Body put the Den in his hand. I think he was just trying to pull it back to his lands, but fix that quickly.
McAllister does have Fatal Push in hand. Has quite a few options here. With 2 currently dead Asmos in hand from a body, McAllister has an opportunity to get back online here. Last turn, spin it, activating Raging Ravine. This turn looks like Seasoned Pyromancer going to be the play. Maybe even a follow-up of Unlicensed Hearse, depending on the sequencing. Maybe holds on to the Fatal Push. Decides to discard both spells, keeping the land.
Yeah.
This gives him 2 tokens.
So Boseiju, like the push, will deal with the Den.
Yep. You do, I think, need to do that in response to the activation. I don't think Boseiju can kill creatures.
Well, Boseiju says artifact, creature, or non-basic land, and it stays a land. So I think you're fine even with an activation in response here. It's not going to save it.
I believe that's the case. Let's get Boseiju on screen and just check the wording just to make sure that we're understanding of the situation here, because I think that a body is actually thinking the same thing, so we need to figure out to make sure. But I'm pretty sure it says artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land, and even if the Bugbear is activated, it's still a non-basic land. So
there are definitely similar effects that are worded and say creature permanent, and if it said that, you could activate the Den in response and counter by state-based action.
Yeah. And heads up play from McAllister, doing it during the draw step, doesn't want to reduce the total number of potential lands drawn. And we're just going to put Gigantha in hand from a body. No other play. The Asmo's rotting and the draw apparently dead.
And, Gigantha, not the most powerful companion, but in matchups like this that are going long, any extra value that you can have sitting there is valuable. Yeah,
and when you're playing, a deck like this, any single grindy element is going to be helpful, and a Gigantha later on is something, Yeah. It's something, and something is better than nothing.
I mean, it's a thing here that will dominate the battlefield. There's 4 power and 4 toughness. I guess that there's the Raging Ravine, but if Ravine stays it'll at least trade with a Ravine if that attacks. Yeah. It looks like McAllister has drawn Riveteer's Charm, so that we'll be able to deal with that Gigantha. Thoughtseize can also deal with Gigantha. Yeah. I think Riveteer's Charm is getting cast on the end step to draw some cards. Yeah, could do that too. A powerful draw spell. A body is just sitting here asking his opponent to cast a Thoughtseize as an instant. Like, please. Just do it on my turn. Takes the Galvanic Blast, actually. I expected him to take the Gigantha and then use the Riveteer's Charm as a draw spell like you suggested. That 5/5 is potentially devastating. Oh, man. Maybe he's thinking he can handle the Gigantha by drawing a bunch of cards. And at 9 life, that blast, if there's a Shrapnel Blast off the top, could end up being problematic. That's a way that a body could steal this game with all that burn. Interesting block here from a body. He chooses to chump the Seasoned Pyromancer instead of trading for one of the 1/1 tokens.
And Rivetier's Charm here going to take care of the Gigantha, making him sacrifice, and a lot of damage coming through on the following turn with the Raging Ravine. So turn the corner here is McAllister, a few too many dead draws from a body, and the no more Galvanic Blast to interact with the 2/2, and it looks like this Raging Ravine is going to carry.
Yeah, that's a 9er, so that puts a body to 4, which means lethal through a blocker.
Yep. Thought he's going to take an Asmo.
Yeah, we have a blocker with the Saga, and it looks like a body's going to end up a turn short of being able to cast an Asmo. Is that Epicure?
It is Epicure, but there's no extra card in hand to discard to the blood token, so the Asmo is going to have to get cycled here.
Well, let's not forget our Saga trigger. There we go. Let's get to a second. Let's play another blocker. And we can start doing things next turn.
Yeah, we can make a blocker, and we also get to make another token next turn, so the game is not quite over.
I think this is going to be a tight window to stabilize in. A body might get punished for that chump block in the Pyromancer instead of just trading for a 1/1. Because it attacked the next turn, you effectively gave them that extra damage anyway. So now you've broken even, and the creature is still on the battlefield.
Yeah, perhaps a minor misstep, but as we have noted in multiple matches so far, these minor missteps in Modern are extremely punishing.
Yeah, lots of close games here, so it really got to be super polished in your play. But one more turn from a body and things could start turning around in a hurry, because that means another token with the Saga. It means a cookbook entering the battlefield, so the tokens are getting bigger, and you can cast your Asmo, get another cookbook. So this is a 2/2 token because of it's a 2/2 construct token because of the blood token.
Right.
So we can eat a 1/1, use the Epicure to chump the Ravine, and go to 1. And still have our construct. Instead, it decides to trade with the Pyromancer and conserve some life.
Yeah, I like blocking the token there again. I feel like the 2 blocks so far have been backwards. You wanted to trade the 1/1 for the 1/1, and then you want to use the 2/2 to eat a 1/1, and that allows your constructs to continue growing and potentially double blocking the Raging Ravine next turn to get it off the table.
A body very much trying to prioritize preserving his life total, but thinking of it
he does.
a little. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we like that play.
Does the block that we recommended, and it's going to end up being pretty good for him here. Here we go with an activation of the Urza Saga before it tutors. And now we're going to have 2 Construct tokens.
McAllister thought the Construct might die, but no, there was a blood token there that made it a 2/2.
Yep.
So now we've got 2 3/3s, about to be 4/4s when the Saga trigger resolves.
Yep, but it can also go get Cookbook and make them into 5/5s, and so we're potentially starting to stabilize here.
Maybe you want to get a Shadow Spear though.
Oh, Shadow Spear is hot.
Goes for Cookbook instead.
No Daredevil though, so it's going to be kind of like a 1-for-1 type deal. But a discarding of the random draw for turn, a casting of Asmo, and a casting another Cookbook does potentially give a body just a bunch of artifacts in play to just make those Saga tokens huge. And you're seeing why we suggested blocking the 1/1 last turn instead of trading with the 2/2, because now these constructs can rumble. And if without McAllister drawing something very specific here, the game has completely turned around in a body's favor.
So just a Seer Step Pathway gets discarded, that's fine. And now these constructs...
It's just big enough to attack. No
that's
defender.
lethal.
Just a lethal attack. The body steals game 1.
Oh, wow. Things really did turn around in a hurry. They turned all the way around.
Oh, and that Thoughtseize with the 2 Asmos in hand, you have to imagine that he's thinking about that one right now.
And you knew it was just 2 Asmos. Didn't really need to cast that Thoughtseize.
It is legendary, so you don't even really need to deal with the second one. Ooh, brutal here. But both players here are going to be reaching for the sideboard. I imagine that the crime punishments are going to come in from the Jund side of things. That card is specifically brutal against these artifact tokens that flood. It's very similar to like a Pernicious Deed or an Oblivion Stone or any of those like big sweeper effects, injure explosives. I think the key though is that crime punishment specifically does not reference the word land, doesn't say non-land on it, and because Urza Saga is an enchantment, it can just sweep up a Saga before it even taps for the second mana, or even tutor makes one card token.
And there are 2 crime punishments in the sideboard. There's also a Collector Oof. That should be a good one. 2 Engineered Explosives.
Yep.
Force of Vigor.
This man came to battle against Saga.
Maybe you want an Unlicensed Hearse The Ashiok Dream Render stops Asmo from tutoring, stops Saga from tutoring, can hit the graveyard a little bit. So that could be good. A lot of options here on the Jund side. There's also 2 copies of Alpine Moon, which can stop Urza Saga, at the source. So plenty going on here. Just depends on how McAllister wants to approach the matchup. And then on the other side, Gabriel Abadi here, not a ton going on in his sideboard for the matchup. I see 2 Alpine Moons, not great. There's no Saga in McAllister's Jund list. 2 Magus the Moon. Moon effects can be good against Jund, but Magus is just going to die to that red removal. Right. Blood Moon would be significantly better. 4 Shattering Sprees, not great. 2 Void Mirrors.
Before we continue on that, I want to touch on what you just said, because you can play those moon effects after the Saga has been played, and if you do, the Saga dies, even if you kill the moon. So,
yeah.
I think any of the moon effects, Alpine, Blood, Magus, are all reasonable bring-ins because of the strength of Saga. You just want to punish that card as hard as you can.
But this is Gabe's sideboard, so he doesn't want to punish his own Sagas.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
I've misunderstood.
He's got the Giganta as a companion, and then 2 Relics and 2 Soul Guide Lanterns. So, there's not even like Goyf that you would have again, for the graveyard hate. So those don't seem great. This might be a same 60 situation.
Okay, maybe, like we brought up earlier, the Jund deck, the mid-range pile of good cards, is really hard to tech against, because without some sort of specific, synergy between cards, it's very hard to exploit a deck that is so well-rounded like this Jund mid-range deck.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that, from the red side, we would get more of a mid-rangey post-board configuration, maybe cut down on some of this burn, but definitely going to want to stay aggressive here. From a body like, those Galvanic Blasts and Shrapnel Blasts, they can sometimes take out a Planeswalker, as we saw in game 1. But a lot of the time, they're going to be your finishing blows here as McAllister is trying to take over the game and turn the corner.
Yeah.
Because, the one thing I would say from McAllister's Jund list that he doesn't have that other Jund list typically do is a ton of pressure. No Goyfs, no Bloodbraid Elves, so, you're not going to see him end the game super quickly, and that actually was his undoing here. It took him a lot of turns to try to end that game, was trying to activate Raging Ravine at certain points and just didn't do it in enough time and ended up opening up a window for a body to steal that game.
All right, before we start game number 2 here, I just want to shout out our sponsors here at the Ohio Valley MTG Invitational, hosted by Apex Gaming. We got G Fuel Energy Formula, an energy drink, normally in powder, but they are making cans as well now, and they're one of our sponsors. Love me some G Fuel. Also, Wings Etc. Grill and Pub, thank you for sponsoring our event. And last but not least, I want to give a big shout out to LuxuryPlaystyle.com. Luxury Playstyle makes premium metal tokens. If that's something you're interested in, zazzing up your commander deck, check them out.
Gotta have appropriate tokens.
Yeah. Game number 2 here underway. Gabriel Abadi, 1-0 in the match, 3-0 on the day. Both players playing for their shot at top 8.
I don't know what that blood token is. Is that like Phil Collins in the Air Tonight video?
It looks like a blown up version of Soren Markov's face.
I think it's Tyler 1.
Tyler 1, the League of Legends player?
I think so.
Wow. Okay, interesting.
But it doesn't look like a blood token.
Okay, well, it is a blood token, so get over it. McAllister leads off with just a fetched Blood Crypt. Abadi's turn 1 is that Vampire Epicure making the blood token. McAllister's turn 2 is a Ragavan. That's a turn too late.
Yeah, Vampire Epicure also doing a great job of saying no, Ragavan.
Yeah,
stay home.
Forces a lightning bolt or some other interactive piece to clear the way.
And that might be a key reason why the Epicure is Abadi's choice for, a discard outlet, because that's its main function, is getting that blood token and having a discard outlet to cast your Asmos. But coming along with the 1/1 body lets you check Ragavan in a deck that, you have 4 Galvblasts, but that's really it. There's no Unholy Heats, no Lightning Bolts to supplement those. Compared to something like Street Wraith that you see some Asmo decks play, or some other discard outlet, like a Faithless Looting style effect. But Epicure, checking Ragavan, really popular threat.
All right. Now, the Epicure did deal damage. I'm fairly confident that it is a entwined triggered ability from the Epicure. So if he dealt a damage, he should be granted a blood token even if he missed it. We might have to pause the match and get that sorted in just a second. But while that happens, McAllister are going to fetch up a forest. That signifies to me that there's a potential Blood Moon incoming. A Blood Moon effect could be backbreaking here. McAllister weighing his options.
Yeah, it looks like he was setting it up with the fetch for the forest. It would be great if he could fetch for the swamp as well. But do we not see another land? Oh, it's a blood crypt.
Yeah, has a blood crypt hanging out in the back, so potentially can play a 3-mana card. Alpine Moon here, gonna be the cast, and that's gonna blow up the Urza Saga. What a
1-mana stone rain.
what a brutal sequence from McAllister. Offers a trade with the Ragavan for an Epic here. A body happy to do it, but now with very little on the battlefield other than that Epic and a Shadow Spear that looks kind of weak.
And we do see them, a body getting that second blood token. You're not allowed to half resolve a trigger.
Yeah. If you remember the damage, you get the token, but you can miss both. Like if you miss both, then it's a missed trigger. But if you remember half of it, you have to do the whole thing. So we got...
looks like a land heavy hand here from a body. So he cashes in one of those blood tokens, and I think there's an Asmo sitting there.
Yeah, and he's going to pop the blood token to be able to get the Asmo online, and that's going to allow him to go get an Underworld Cookbook and a battle for 1 with the Epicure.
McAllister punished for that stone rain. Now the Den of the Bugbear enters untapped. Not really punched.
Not really punched. Den of the Bugbear, a powerful land. I see it a ton in Pioneer. It's one of the best creature lands in the format.
Okay, so I believe there's a bolt here from McAllister. I think that's what that fancy looking card is. That'll deal with the Asmo, and then still not a lot going on here. I think it's 3 lands and the cookbook that the Asmo found in a body's hand here. Yep, bolt does. So bolt does take down to the Asmo. Looks like there's a Turok. Yeah, Turok just gets cast normally. McAllister didn't want to wait on that, and he would have needed to find another black source to kick it. Just decides to get the 2/1 down. Though, honestly, the 2/1 doesn't do a whole lot here. Can we bring that Turok up? Does that card flies, right? Turok's like doesn't fly. I don't know, it's hexproof from white. Oh, it does get counters when they. So okay, okay, it's pro white. Pro white. I thought it was hexproof white. Card has so much
Hexproof from white, the classic ability.
I thought Turok had a weird ability. But,
it does have a weird ability. It has 8 abilities.
Well, the ability that's relevant here is getting counters when a body discards a card. So anytime he activates that cookbook,
it's going to get big. Or a blood token.
Yeah, or the blood token. So yeah, I was questioning getting that down, but because it triggers off of so much of what a body is doing naturally, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just a powerful card. You know, the baseline, a 2-mana, 2/1, pro white, pretty decent. But the kicker of being able to force your opponent to discard 2 cards at random once the game goes long, we saw that a ton when Loris was legal in the format because it was a 4-drop that essentially only cost 2 mana on the face. And it allowed you to cheat on it a little bit.
Yeah. And that power is what McAllister was giving up by just jamming it as a 2/1. But, didn't have the 3rd black source to cast it, didn't draw it there. So... made a lot of sense. And there is an EE for 1. Gonna blow up his own Alpine Moon, but Alpine Moon already did its work. And I'm seeing a lot of 1-mana non-permanence on a body side of the battlefield.
Yeah, we're gonna crack this Relic of Progenitus to cycle and draw a card and exile the graveyards. And then everything's gonna get blown up.
Okay, so yeah, exile first. Let's make sure we resolve that. The rest of this is gonna go to the graveyards. And it looks like you found another land.
Well, I mean, that's not that bad when you have Den of the Bugbear. You want to be able to make sure you can activate those. We also have Raymond Runes in here.
Oh, found another Saga.
Saga unlocked. What? Brutal.
And Saga is excellent.
Giganta in hand now, too. So a lot of stuff to do now for a body. Looked like he was a little flooded, but now the engine's humming thanks to the Alpine Moon getting blown up from his own engineered explosives.
Now McAllister found a Grist. That's a good draw. Looks like he's flipping through Grist and Terminate, and there's a red card in the back of his hand.
I believe that's a Seasoned Pyromancer, so McAllister got a lot of options here. My God says to play Grist. Your other 2 cards are actually pretty good. You want the Terminate to be able to deal with either one of the tokens from Urza Saga, maybe something like a follow-up Asmo to make sure that that thing can't just blow up all your creatures.
Yeah, I like the Grist myself too, but maybe you get greedy and try to find that second Alpine Moon off the Seasoned Fire.
Maybe. Does have that 3rd red source, so it could definitely do it, and if you shut it down before it gets going, that's pretty strong. But I think because of the nature of Urza Saga, the second one has to be kind of activated sort of at sorcery speed. The Grist has a lot of value in potentially A, being able to block, and B, being able to minus and kill those constructs.
Yeah, and McAllister agrees, gets the Grist down.
5th land next turn also could allow for Terminate plus Seasoned Pyromancer Perfecto.
Well, we did mill a land mountain going to the graveyard with the grist, but still could be one there sitting on top. What is that land?
I don't know. See, that also looks like Rogue's Passage to me. So these alternate. I mean, I'm sure it does something. You want to pull up his deck list and we'll try to figure it out from process of elimination.
It's not a blast zone.
It looks like it's a colorless land. Doesn't look like it taps for red. We'll try to figure it out in just a second. But while we're doing that, McAllister, it's a Mishra's Factory.
Yeah, there are 3 Mishra's Factories.
They reprinted that card.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so cool.
That's a great card
I
for this
love
deck.
Mishra's Factory.
It's an artifact when it's animated too.
Nice. Construct. Assembly Worker is not a construct though. That's funny.
Yeah. Wonder what did that Plague Engineer name?
We'll figure it out. We'll ask the judge and we'll get confirmation on what the Plague Engineer named. My gut says it named construct because the 2 constructs need to be shrunk a little bit.
But that's a one of in McAllister's sideboard. I'm a little surprised to see that one come in. You can name Vampire and make sure the Epicures die, but
it also just has Death Touch, so it trades for some of the larger constructs. But I agree, it is an interesting one up to bring in.
Okay, Urza Saga making a second construct, finding probably a cookbook, but we'll see. Could also find a pithing needle for this grist.
Oh,
that would be good.
Here.
Yeah, yep. That's a pithing
Dumped
needle
it to
that's
the front. Hand is still juiced too.
Yeah, I like the pithing needle on grist. Now your constructs are protected, and they're now 4/4s, maybe 3/3s if the engineer named construct.
Yeah. So potentially going to rumble here with one of them and offer a trade for the engineer, but I wouldn't be surprised to just see him kind of sit back. Wow, a third saga. Just getting maximally punished for using that engineer explosive. It was a 4-for-2 trade.
Yeah.
And it was just completely punishing with the back-to-back sagas drawn over the last 2 turns.
And the cards that you dealt with, like, it was a lot of total cards, but they weren't really high-powered cards. No. It was a cookbook. It was an Epicure, like just a 1/1.
Yeah.
Not a ton. And really getting
Shadow
punished.
Spear.
Shadow Spear, which,
We hit the land, though. We hit the land. We can fetch up a swamp here. We can do the perfect Terminate plus Seasoned Pyromancer turn, and that'll give us some leeway here and maybe find some way to interact with the Saga.
Juice us up a little bit. And, when you take the... so if you take the construct down, it's still hard to attack because that Mishra's Factory can animate block, and after blocks, tap to pump itself. So that's really a 3/3 blocker, which is going to check the... insect token and the Turok, and would trade with the Plague Engineer, which I'm sure a body would be fine. So still not great attacks after removing the blocker.
Yeah, probably just going to play defense. I would consider using the Plague Engineer to trade with the construct because it does have Death Touch. That's one of the draws of it. Oh, big pickup here though. Croaksa next turn. Maybe can't activate and bring back on the same turn because that Relic of Progenitus earlier ate the whole graveyard.
Couldn't do it next turn with the forest in play either. So 6 land gives you enough total mana, but the forest means you don't have the right colors.
Yep. No Urborg in play either, so can't tap it for black, but maybe the Urborg off the top could do it.
Yeah, then still not enough cards in the graveyard. It looks like 3 in the graveyard there from McAllister, so might have to wait an extra turn or 2.
Manufacture the draw. That could be explosive later on. The Saga can go get a cookbook and start generating tons of food tokens, and a Asmo soon down the line could threaten to blow up basically the entire side of the battlefield for McAllister.
Yeah, I think things looking good here from a body side. A few turns ago, it looked like he didn't have much going on. And these, McAllister blowing up his own Alpine Moon and then drawing a couple Urza Sagas. And, Urza Saga is a lot going on all in one card.
Did we ever figure out what the Plague Engineer was naming? It is naming Construct. Okay, so they're shrunk a little bit.
Looks like the insect token jumped in front of the construct on that attack. I would have loved to trade there.
Yeah, especially with the Croaks in hand.
Yeah,
definitely.
Just fill up that graveyard. You've got your plan. You're going to try to Croaks of this man.
All right, and he has a lot of lands in hand and not a whole lot of spells, so probably going to deal 3 in the process as well. A green card is drawn for the turn, maybe a Nature's Claim or something similar. Couldn't quite tell what it was.
It's like Croaksa will see a mountain get discarded, so 3 damage for a body. That's going to bring us to 13 all.
Yep, and the basic force preventing the return, and also just one. The fetch line actually makes it 5 cards, so What's this green card? A collector oof. What a draw!
That is a gooder.
That's going to shut down most of the things that Saga could find. Pyrite Spellbomb no longer active.
Yeah.
Underworld Cookbook. Now the constructs are still going to be big and can still be, still keep growing.
And so if I am Matthew McAllister, I am tapping my deck and thinking, crime, punishment, please.
Crime Punishment would be a heck of a draw. Saga here going to make a construct and then go tutoring. Let's see what he looks for.
We could see the awkward second engineered explosives turned off by my own collector.
Ah, yeah. A little bit of a dyssynergy here, but powerful cyber cards like Collector Oof and Engineer Explosives both being so good on their own means that you can afford a little bit of that anti-synergy.
And there's not a ton of these Asmo decks around, and this is basically the only deck where you bring in both.
Yeah. Ever since Cartcline Ironwork got banned. Although maybe Oof doesn't say mana abilities. I can't remember. I think it's all abilities, though.
Yeah, it's all. It's just like Null Red.
Yeah, it's stony.
Looks like a body getting a cookbook. Don't think he really had an option of anything that works through the oof. You know, I think it's one Springleaf Drum, the Shadow Spear that's already gone, the Relic that's already gone.
And a Fire Spellbomb that probably got sided out, honestly.
No, I saw him thumb at the Spellbomb too.
Okay, but it is shut down by Collector Oof, so here any artifact is the same because it's just going to power up the Saga tokens to get in there. Right now they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sevens, but -1/-1 from the Plague Engineer. Good chance the Plague Engineer jumps in front of one this turn. I imagine that trading for one of those tokens is a high priority, and maybe a chump block on the other with the Seasoned Pyromancer, and that's going to allow for 2 more tokens somewhere down the line to potentially play some more defense against these large constructs. Ragavan going to be the follow-up here. A body, a land, and a Gigantha in hand. Still has Mishra's Factory to block. Can McAllister do something powerful over the next few turns? We know he has Croaks in the graveyard, and now has enough food for the Croaks to come back with Escape, but still potentially smaller than those constructs. Might be in double block mode. Scary times.
Yeah. Yeah, these constructs really just powering through with not much going on McAllister's side.
Heck of a land. That is a Saga. Heck of a land. Rivetier's Charm.
Okay.
Doesn't have enough mana to Rivetier's Charm and Croxa, though, so gonna have to choose one or the other.
I don't think Croxa is good enough. Like, it's what, 2, 4, 6 artifacts plus the factory, so those are potentially 7 sevens. You know, you're maybe trading for one of them with a double block. And that's at best. So if I'm McAllister, I'm charming and hoping to hit this punishment.
Oh, to look at the top 3. Yeah. Maybe that's that's got to be the play.
Just give me the top 3 cards.
Desperation mode. Plus, if he hits a land, he can just still Croxa.
Yeah.
As long as it's not another basic force. I don't think he has 2 force in his deck. Very rarely. People play more than one of any basic in these 3-color decks.
And if you hit Engineer Explosives, you can just play it and then chump block with the oof.
Yep. That's true. Rivetier's Charm, Desperation Mode, top 3, Inquisition and Seasoned Pyromancer. No cards in hand, though. Can't just play the Pyromancer and draw 2.
Yeah.
Hardly played a land, I believe.
I'm in for that.
Yep. No, we still got some chump blockers. The Grist, obviously, here, still locked down from that Pithy Needle. This has been a pretty long game, so not a whole lot of options for McAllister other than playing the Seasoned Pyromancer. Gonna go for an Inquisition first.
Interesting. And knew one of the cards was Gigantha too, so you're only potentially hitting the other card with 2 mana open for a body. Like, what was it gonna be?
Yeah. But I mean, it could have been anything because he could have been sandbagging a little bit, wanting to block with that Mishra's Factory. It is a 3/3 on defense when it blocks and pumps itself. Doesn't cost mana to pump. One of the classic uses of Mishra's Factory as a nice defensive measure.
A real classic one is with Humility. Mishra's Factory is still a 2/2.
Yeah, there's some weird layering stuff with Humility and lands that turn into creatures.
Yep. If you don't know what Humility does or what layers are,
Neither do we.
you're probably under 35.
All right, McAllister here going to go ahead and fetch up a land, considering shocking because I don't believe he has a swamp or forest left in the deck.
Yeah.
Probably going to have to go get something like, maybe there are no more fetchable targets other than a Triumph?
And this is just another punish for playing that Inquisition.
Yeah, this mishap from McAllister could cost him the match and a potential top 8 berth. A 4-0 here on a 6-round event, potentially good enough for top 8, and it looks like McAllister's got all his fetchables with the Overgrown Tomb except for the Tri-Land, and it enters tapped. So that Seasoned Pyromancer here just going to be rotting in hand or rotting in exile, and then going to go away end of turn.
And and in this event, we're close to the cutoff for 7 rounds by design, and that means X1s are not going to be able to draw in the last round. So these players are playing to try to double draw in, which is possible, but the loser is going to have to win 2 in a row.
Yeah. We have a big attack here coming in from a body.
That's
2
a quick
huge
attack.
constructs, the Den of the Bugbear coming, a lot of artifacts in play. We have an activation of a cookbook. Or sorry, a cookbook can't be activated, but we have a lot of things coming into play here. Goblin token.
Oh, why did that cookbook get...
I think it's just a mistake. Nothing happened. I don't think it does anything.
Okay, yeah. That token is a goblin token from the den. That is not a...
The card with the dice on it is a blood token. All these are currently locked down by Collector Oof, but this is a huge attack, and I think we're going to have to block with both creatures here just to survive.
Yeah, I think we have to chump both constructs even.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then the game's basically over.
The factory can get activated, and I believe that makes 7 artifacts. I think that token with a die on it is a blood, right?
Yep.
And then you have Needle, Cookbook, Factory. If that gets activated is 4. The 3 artifact creatures up top is 7. So if you block, say, Den and a 7, then it's the Goblin token, Rogavan, and Manufacturer are 4, plus the other 7 is 11. Gotta chump block both constructs. Exactly.
Yeah. But even if Crime and Punishment's the draw for the turn, there are creature lands abound, and that sorcery speed of Crime and Punishment means that it's not an out. So a body here, putting the pressure on McAllister, double chump on the constructs.
So now taking 7, going to 4. Bloodstained Mire off the Rogavan, so no help there, but a treasure token. And because of Manufacturer, treasure also comes along with a food and a clue.
Wow. Powerful stuff here from this mono red deck. Impressive stuff, generating so many permanents. And this is obviously to go along with your synergy cards like those Gear for Ether Grids, you know?
And now the oof is gone, so we can activate the cookbook. But a punishment here, you can cast it for 1 and then still have the grist up to activate, because then the needle will be gone. And it'll be just Manufacturer and the creature lands left, and you're at 4. I think that means you can live.
All right, looks like we're going to sack a treasure and tap our land to sacrifice a clue token. Crime Punishment off the top, but again, it's not enough. He's at 4 life in the Den of the Bugbear. Wow, what a draw that could have been. He missed it. You called it, he missed it. He could have activated the grist.
So it was enough to stay alive unless a body had a land. And I think he did, because then you can activate both creature lands. And then the Manufacturer also lives. And if you chump block the 3/2, then Manufacturer, Mishra's Factory, and the Goblin token that you generate get in for exactly 4. So a land was still lethal, but from McAllister's side, that was your draw. You potentially had a way to win.